Hi, welcome to Teach With Me. I'm Miss Jen. Today we are going to be talking about how to incorporate art into your classroom. A lot of times teachers think they cannot incorporate art into their classroom because they have to teach reading for so many minutes and math for so many minutes and science and writing and all of that. But you can. If you stop thinking of it as a standalone subject and start thinking of ways you can incorporate it together, then it can be done. I taught at a STEAM school, and so we did STEAM, ethics, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And so all of those things we tried to incorporate into our classroom. And what we did in kindergarten and first grade is we had an artist of the month. And that artist we would try to align the artist that we were studying with the standards, or choose an artist that met the standards we were doing that month. So the first one that we usually did was Piet Mondrian. Piet Mondrian was famous for his geometric print paintings. And he could paint other things too, but these are the ones we would focus on when we were learning about him. I created a slideshow which I would show in the classroom and introduce him as an artist, and then show some of his work so that we would get to know the kind of style he did. So I'm going to go through this book. I'm not going to read the book verbatim because I don't want to get a copyright strike, but I'm going to show you some of the artwork that he did that we would use in our talk about in our classroom and then try to imitate. The first one, if you'll notice in this style, he used a lot of squares and rectangles, and he used primary colors. He used reds, blues, and yellows, and then he also used blacks, grays, and whites. And you'll notice that there are some empty squares. They're just white, and then the colors were sort of meant to be an opposition. So the darker colors with the bright pops of color. So this was interesting because it tied really well into our standards where we're learning shapes and our standards where we're learning colors. And this is just sort of a blow up of one, I believe. Yes, because you'll see he's got floating squares within this picture. All right, so this one is called Composition in Color A, and he said he really liked playing with squares and shapes and colors. So I'm going to continue to show you these different pictures. Look at this one. This one's a little different because you've got the picture inside of an oval, inside of a rectangle. So that's a really interesting one. And what he did there, he didn't use primary colors on this one. He mixed the primary colors, yellow and red, to get some orange squares and rectangles in there. So that was a different play on it. Now the next three pictures I'm going to show you use a lot of squares, but also a lot of the primary colors. You see a lot of yellow squares in here, and they're smaller in comparison. Look at this one. This one has a lot of those small ones, and this is a bigger composition than the one before. But the one we're going to imitate today is this one. Notice there are white squares that are left in here. We're still using our primary colors, and we also have some gray and black. In the one we do today, we're not going to be using the grays and the blacks. We're just going to use the primary colors. All right, I'm going to switch over to my document camera in a moment and show you how to do this with your class. It's really easy. That's why it's the first one we do. But if you would like more information about this book, this is what it's called, Meet Piet Mondrian. It's part of the Meet the Artist series. And it says Explore Artwork with Celebrated Artists. This is a really good beginning art introduction book. Okay, so to get started, you're going to need some primary colors and a piece of paper that you have pre-made, and I'll show you how to do it in the next part of the video. Today we are going to be making something that looks like this. Let me show you first how I made the master sheet. This is really easy. All you need is a Sharpie and some kind of a ruler or straight edge. And all I did is I made a bunch of straight lines, however you want to, and a bunch of rectangles. Mine is mostly rectangles. I have one square or maybe two squares. The majority of them are rectangles, but you can do this however you like. You can make more than one if you want to, more than one master. But what I did is I made one master and I made a bunch of them that were the same. So it just makes it simple, but you can make this as unique as you would like. Anyway, what I then did is I told the kids, I said, you can only have a red, a blue, or a yellow. These are our primary colors. And we talk a lot about primary colors, but this is a good way to emphasize it. I tell them to take out your blue, your red, and your yellow, and these are the only colors you're allowed to use. I tell them 2 parameters. I say, first, you can not color in every square. You do have to leave at least one square white, and you can leave as many as you want, but you have to have one square that's white. The other thing I tell them is they cannot touch the same color to a box next to it that's the same color. So for example, since this one is yellow, this one cannot be yellow. Since this one is blue, this one cannot be blue. I want, that way I make sure that they don't take their crayons and color in an entire side blue, an entire side red, an entire side yellow and say, oops, I'm done. So this way there is some variety within the pictures, and it makes it a little more interesting for them as well. So I'm going to just do one more box on here. Now this one I can't color at all because you see it's surrounded by yellow, red, and blue. I can't do that one at all. This one I could do blue. It'd be touching on the corners but not on the sides. This one I could do blue. And I think that might be it. Let me see. This one could be, it can't be red, it can't be blue, it can't be yellow. This one can't be, oh, this one could be red. So you see it gives me very few options. I'm going to do this one here. But it does keep the kids more interested than if you simply did it with letting them do whatever they wanted. Now, one thing the other thing I always tell them also, excuse that very odd way of saying that, is they have to color in the entire square. I always tell the kids there's no sense doing something if you're not going to do it right the first time, if you're not going to try your best, and there you go. I do not accept it if they do scribbles. I don't accept that. I make them go back and fill it in completely. And I think that is it. This is a very simple lesson. You can incorporate this into your monthly lesson plans. You'll notice this one touches on math standards for kindergarten as well as understanding primary colors. Next month we'll be doing another art lesson with a different artist. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, like, subscribe, and share.